Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all happy podcast. I am your host and coach, KG, here with
his co-host, Coach Josh. Thanks for tuning in today.
We're happy to have you here. And today we are going to be walking you through 7 high-level tips and steps to just achieve a killer transformation. Now, this episode is going to be very laid back. It's going to be very different from what we're used to. And well, it's always laid back, but what we did was we actually asked our community and our amazing clients that have achieved some killer results. Some have lost over 100 pounds now. Every one of them is just a completely different person. We're so happy to be working with all of them. And we actually asked in the Facebook group, hey, what are some unique things that have helped you out? And instead of us giving you high-level tips, we wanted the people who have actually been in the program, crushing it, to just say what's been on their mind and what's actually helped them out. So with all that being said, I'm going to start with number 1. And this was from Mark, and I really like this one. And he had said, might be odd, but on May 11th, I will hit 1 year sober after being an alcoholic. This journey that I am on, being healthy and putting all my energy on being the best version of myself. Pushing to eat right and lift gives me a bigger purpose than to come home and drink. My life in all aspects have changed. And I really love this. I don't have a whole lot to say here. I just feel like when you change your identity and you're a different person, you are perceived as someone that's different and everyone around you notices and you just show up completely different. And one of my clients recently, it was her birthday, shout out to Ariana, she said for the first time in her life, people started giving her protein gifts. And I thought that was so incredible. She's 55 pounds down and she started to be that person. Like everyone around her looked at her as that healthy person. Like they didn't give her chocolate bars. They didn't give her chips. Like they said, hey, I know you're on this journey. Here's what we're going to give you. And we were talking about how our identity changed. And similar to Mark, just being that person that's not the alcoholic anymore, that's actually like, he's going out on these crazy rucks. He's doing all these amazing runs. He's doing 75 hard right now. He's crushing our 30-day challenge. It's amazing to see. And that's one of my biggest tips is just being a different version of yourself and having a different identity. So I thought this was really cool. And I'm glad Mark shared this for today's episode.
Yeah, we're really excited about this episode. And we just wanted to focus on giving because these are the things that stop clients from succeeding in the past. And these are the things we work through to actually have them see that change. And most often there is something in your face that's holding you back. And for a lot of people, it may be alcohol. That might be where a lot of the bad decisions go. Maybe you lock in all week. We've made that mention of the weekends, of things just it being difficult. Maybe go out for a few drinks, turns into a lot of drinks, turns into a late meal, turns into no sleep, turns into big breakfast the next day. And that's snowballing you away from your goals. And for everyone, it's entirely different. But sometimes doing that really uncomfortable thing, letting something go so you can move forward is so important, or even just establishing a better position of balance. We've mentioned this before, counting drinks, logging them in advance, having a plan, and really navigating it as to what works best for you. But I think this was an incredible first tip.
Yeah, I do believe like once you cut that out, and especially people who struggle with it, I see so many incredible changes and it consistently compounds. It's you start drinking less, you are feeling great the next day, you're not overeating because of that. Like it can be one of those things that is just like a keystone habit. It's like a ripple effect. And when you think of these big movers that may be holding you back, but you get rid of it, it makes such a big difference. But jumping into number 2, this was from Ellen, and she had said, it's not unique, but pre-logging my food really helps. Not that I 100% stick to the pre-log food each day, but it gives my day framework and then I know how I can add or adjust. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say there, just simply being ahead of schedule. They say, hey, fail to prepare is preparing to fail. And here Ellen is definitely setting herself up for success by preparing. And that's where so many people struggle is they'll just be reactive and they just don't really have the right approach. And when they're over their calories and they're under their protein, it's because they're not simply thinking about it. And I love that Josh is so passionate about this one as well, because honestly, pre-login can change the game for so many people, but it is so underrated.
Yeah, being proactive versus reactive is how you see those big time results. Imagine if Olympians just trained whenever they felt like it, however they felt like did, and just said, when the Olympics come, I'll figure it out. Like that's not it. Like if you think at the highest level of how anything's done, how meticulous it is, every component of it is so micromanaged. And of course, you don't want to be obsessive with it, but it's very easy to give yourself that favor by even in the morning, taking 5 minutes, being like, okay, I know what my breakfast is. I know roughly what my lunch is. And actually I'm going to this sweet steakhouse tonight, and I'm very confident I'm gonna have at least 8 ounces of steak. It's gonna be super oily, so I'll log 8 ounces of steak, I'll log oil. I usually end up getting these Brussels sprouts, so I'll pre-log that, and most often I get like a baked potato with it. And you'll put that in, and then you'll say, okay, now I know what if any room I have for an afternoon snack. Maybe because my protein will be a little bit lower because of those sides, I'm going to have a more protein based afternoon snack. Whereas a person who doesn't do any of these things all day, you eat normally, and then you're like, oh yeah, I have this big dinner, and then you're like, oh, I'm already over, I'm going to go super off the deep end. Then you're 2,000 calories up. That snowballs into a second bad day, etc., etc. So this tip is like one of the smallest tips that if you're not doing it, try it for a week. Just play with it for a week. Set a reminder in your phone, pre-log your meals for the day. It'll actually cause you to also build that habit of getting in MyFitnessPal, getting things logged in there, and then you can always adjust it. Maybe you don't end up going to that dinner. You have a bunch of calories and you're like, oh, perfect. I've wanted to cook this thing at home that I'm going to eat anyways. You work those numbers in. Boom, bada bing. And I've always said it before, you can always change the log, but you can't change what you've eaten. Once you've eaten it, it's in your system. And this is a great way to be able to go to more of these events, have more experiences entirely guilt-free.
I do find those that are struggling with this and just overall logging in general, the ones that are like, I see a lot of people trying to do it at the end of the day, just like calculating. And like when you do that, you're mentally trying to make it fit as best as you can. And I've done that before. I'm like, okay, I've got 300 calories left. Like, and then you're just under logging because you're trying to make it fit and you don't want to feel guilty. Or even worse, people are doing it the day after or like at the end of the week, and it never works. Like you have to be ahead of schedule to succeed, at least, you know, as much as our clients are here. And this is number 3 from Taylor, and you know, she's over 60 pounds down. I don't know the exact number, but I'd have to double check. And I love this tip here. It's a mental tip here. So once clothes became too big for me, immediately getting new ones and donating the old ones. By doing so, it was a mental thing for me knowing I won't ever need to wear those big clothes again. So there's no reason to keep them. If I did keep them, then it would be okay if I gained weight again because at least I had other clothes to wear. It worked in my brain. Haha. So, I mean, absolutely fantastic. And so far we have a lot of different tips. We have pre-logging, we have, you know, being a different version of yourself with identity, getting rid of your vices. And here's just like that mental push, like whatever it is, like find those things that can hold you accountable, can push you. And for Taylor here, it's getting rid of those old clothes. For some people, it might be signing up for some sort of photo shoot or just like real stakes where it's like you're going to have to put more money and you don't want to have to put it. Like she does not want to have to get rid of those clothes and then go buy a whole another set. Like there's just no way she's going backwards. And when you have these things motivating you and pushing you, it's just going to always be there. You know, just when you put on your clothes, you're going to be able to tell, hey, am I making progress or am I not? Like, and it's just going to speak for itself, the results. So yeah, absolutely amazing. Taylor's been crushing it. And I really like this tip here.
Yeah, in order to have significant change, especially if you were someone that was a lot more overweight, is letting yourself reforge this new identity. And one of the best ways to do it is moving past who you were. And very often I'll hear from clients, they'll say, no, like I've always been big, like big me's inside, just in case I blow back up in weight, I want to have these ready so I don't have to buy more. But instead, like get rid of that, like cut off the safety vest, if you will, like go all in, say, I'm a new person now. I'm only changing. I've deserved some awesome new clothes. I've worked hard for this. And even for me in the past, like when I was really bulky, I had these jeans and I got rid of them immediately, like anytime. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm past that size, whatever it was. And like, you don't even want to have that available for you. Like those fail safes can really hold you back. So this was a really unique and fun tip here. I think that's absolutely amazing. And just keep looking forward and have that faith that you can become that new person.
Awesome. And number 4 is simply accountability. And this came from Ruth. And I love what she had said here. It's when I had to report probably my worst week in the whole process to Coach Lauren, I was super embarrassed, like she was my mom. And it made me never want to have a week like that again. Been trying to kill it since. And Ruth has been absolutely on fire. We're so proud to see her just consistently show up. And shout out to every person that shared this. I mean, everyone in our program we are so proud of. And, you know, just first of all, raising your hand to get help is always the hardest step, and then actually fully committing. Like, we have so much respect for you. You all know who you are, and we are so happy for you. But with that being said, I mean, we just all need accountability. Like, I will say it over and over and over again, and I just firmly believe it. And the more that you have accountability, the more likely it is for you to succeed. And I think so many people either think like, oh, well, I'm not too good for it, but they think like, oh, I don't need it. Like I can do this on my own. And then they struggle for months and months on end. And then finally they're like, okay, well, I'm not getting anywhere. Like I need some support. So we will always be by your side. And that's really what this is all about, is just like having that person, like just to help you out and really to encourage you. Of course, you never want to have to face it and be like, oh, it was horrible. And, you know, we'll work through those obstacles when you are having a bad week. Like, don't get me wrong, like we will figure out a game plan to support you through that. But at the same time, just simply having that person you have to check in with, like, is so valuable. So whatever way that you want to recreate this, of course, we're always happy to help. But I do believe whether that's your partner, whether that's like some gym buddies, some friends, like having that group of people or that person will change the game for you for sure.
That was incredibly well said. What's the next tip?
And number 5, this was from Rachel. So for me, I've stayed open-minded and not set expectations for my transformation as far as what my physique will look like. I've just watched my progress and just seen what my body is becoming and trusted the process along the way. Hope that makes sense, Rachel. So I like this because on Monday we were talking about how sometimes we have to detach ourselves, and very often when someone's so focused like every single day on the number, on just seeing the change and all that stuff, it can become a very daunting process. Whereas when you know the game plan, you know what you're doing is working, you have the workout set out, you show up to them all the time, you're hitting your numbers, like the results will come versus just like being so hard on yourself. And I do believe we, of course, do need to be hard on ourselves to produce that change. Like, don't get me wrong, but I find that some people just beat themselves up to the core, and it becomes such an incredibly painful process because they, if they have a bad day or, they have a bad weigh-in or it's their time of the month, like they're just so hard on themselves. And that's why I really like this, because Rachel's showing up with the process. She's been given the game plan. She knows what she's doing is right. And she's just allowing those results to compound. And I really, really like this because it's a bit of a different, unique one. But I like the way it was said. And I think that's definitely very encouraging for sure.
Next great tip here is just bring other people in on your journey. So really making sure to have your community be supportive. For my client, Caitlin, just a mention of having a boss who's supportive of it, who's on their team. And I think one of the best things you can do, even with your friends, your coworkers, even for our one buddy and Kyle with the challenge, will say, hey, I'm doing this challenge. I need to beat this guy or XYZ. And it's awesome seeing how everyone gets motivated by that. And they're like, oh, you got to beat this guy. What's going on here? And just the same, I think sharing your ambitions, your goals, bringing and inviting people into that is very inspiring. So like letting your family know, letting them know why your goal is truly important to you, your significant other, like say why you're doing it so you can be there for yourself, for them, like really bring them into that and let them know that secret. And I find when you bring people on your team, you're already just helping yourself so much in your journey because you're bringing so many people who are going to bring you up or encourage you when you're weak. And this goes right back to this accountability. And the more you can communicate these things, I think it's awesome as people understand it more, because I think people will tease or be less supportive if they don't understand why you're doing it, your intentions, what you're working towards, how it is. And I think you can even be this example and encourage them in just the same way. So I think it's an incredible tip and definitely something I'm quite passionate about.
I think so many people are scared to bring others on board. I think maybe it comes from a failure point of view. Just they don't want to, if they don't succeed, it's like no one really knows about it. But honestly, the more you tell people, the higher your likelihood of succeeding is. And last but not least, I'm going to just quickly jump into this one. It is really, really important. And I love what Jonathan said here. He said, as someone who's been always active in sports and working out for 20 plus years, I never felt I saw the results that I should have because with all the exercise I was doing. And I can 100% say nutrition is everything. If you're more focused on your workouts than your nutrition, you'll never meet your goals. Getting the guidance on the nutrition aspect has been paramount to my success. And he goes on to talk about different things that we've incorporated, such as reverse dieting, finding the leanest sources of protein, increasing fiber, finding 0-calorie substitutes, all that great stuff. And I think this is so incredibly well said, because the amount of people I know that are just not over exercising, but they're thinking that exercise will compensate for a bad diet. And one of my favorite quotes to this day is, you can't out exercise a bad diet. And honestly, when people just know what numbers they should be striving for, they eat more protein, they eat healthier, they incorporate all these things, it is honestly amazing the success that they can have. So some amazing tips here. I really encourage you, implement every single one of them. It can be one by one, you can do all of them right now, but I do believe these are things that will 100% help you out for sure.
Yeah, and we just want to say, if you appreciate our podcast, and we want to say we appreciate you tuning in, it would mean the world if you would take some time to leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen. If you could leave us a 5-star review, that would help us grow, do better, and get this content out to more people. As a bonus as well, if you enjoyed this episode or any of our episodes, share it to your Instagram story, tag us in it at Colossus Fit. We'd love to thank you. Also, reshare your share. So once again, we can really get this podcast out to more people and help with our mission of helping more and more people become fitter, healthier, and happier. So once again, use these tips, create that transformation. Let's keep pushing forward together. Thanks for tuning in. Peace out.